Welcome from Sherry Forsyth, a life coach in South Africa, and as you can see from the background, I'm really in the deepest, darkest Africa. We are at a beautiful lodge on the northern Zululand coast, near to Cozy Bay, with friends of ours. So I come to you live from this beautiful African scenery. And what I would like to speak to you about today is, in order to be uniquely and powerfully you, what we need to make sure of is that we've guarded our energy, that we have high energy, which enables us then to do what we want to do, and we're not limited by a lack of energy. Having had chronic fatigue syndrome myself for many years, I have to really be very careful and manage my energy well to make sure that I can give the energy to the priorities in my life. And for those of you who have never battled with energy, I ask you to never ever take it for granted, but to make sure that you are guarding it, and so that you can always be at your peak. For those of us who have been energy compromised, just to say that with guarding your resources and managing it well, we can do amazing things. We can run marathons, we can work a very long day, we can love our lives. So let's not use that as an excuse not to do what we should be doing. So if we're looking at our energy levels, I'd like you to visualize a bucket filled up to the top of energy. That's really what our energy is like. And as we go through life, so there are holes in the bucket that are depleting our energy, that are draining our energy. And as those drains happen, so the energy level goes from being at the top of the bucket and gradually goes lower and lower and lower. And then if you get to the burnout or chronic fatigue stage, what happens is you actually are working from no energy in your bucket whatsoever, but you are still working and being active. And that's where it becomes dangerous for our bodies. So what we're trying to do is to keep our energy at the top, the energy level at the top of the bucket. So first of all, I want to just speak about a few of the things that can drain us in our everyday life, and then I'm going to finish with mentioning many things that can help top up your battery. So if we think about the things that can drain our lives, there are lots of things. So let's start with the major thing: is anything that causes you stress and worry is going to naturally be depleting our body of energy. And today I'm not going to go into any of the physiological or neurochemical reasons for the depletion. I'm just going to be talking about what actually does drain us. So let's have a look at some of the examples, or some of the more detailed things that can deplete our energy. Conflict. Okay, any ongoing conflict, any anxiety as build up to conflict, and particularly unresolved conflict that just hums along as part of your life, or running concurrently, even though you may not be working on them at a particular time. They are running and draining you away. So if you have unresolved conflict, it is exactly like that. You might not be aware of it all the time, but it is draining your energy 24/7. So be careful of conflict. Working too hard, I think that's a thing that many of us do, particularly those who are in their own businesses or running their own businesses. We can never switch off. We can be working 24/7, and those very long working hours, even though they might result in a very successful business, result in long term, they will result in energy depletion. Trying to be all things to all people is exhausting, and this involves quite a number of ways of being that can be exhausting. So things like trying to keep up with the Joneses when you know you can't will be exhausting. To be who you are not, in other words, to be inauthentic, living behind masks, is very exhausting, because what's happening is you are being a person that you naturally inherently aren't, and that is very tiring for you. So don't try and hide behind who you're not. We come back over and over and over again to this whole concept of not being good enough. Just remember, we are good enough just as we are. The other thing that can drain you is perfectionism, which is not striving for excellence, but it's that striving to be absolutely perfect in all that we do. Being perfect, the goal of that is unachievable. So no matter how hard we try and we work at it, we are going to fail. So that in itself is exhausting. So if you're interested in the topic of perfectionism and rather striving to be excellent rather than being a perfectionist, have a look on my YouTube channel. There's a little video about that. As I'm talking to you, if you can think of any ideas or any things that are draining you particularly, I invite you to write that in the comment box, so that we can, as usual, I request that we start a conversation, and we can all help each other in helping us to maintain our energy levels. The second last thing I'm going to talk about as a drain of your energy is if you give too much to others, whether that is in your personal role as a mother, father, daughter, family member, friend, or whether it's part of your job if you are in a caring profession. Very often the kind, gentle people are the ones that end up giving too much, and that can be exhausting. And the last thing I want to mention that is very exhausting is if you are locked in and you really are not enjoying your life as it is, whether it's your working life, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a family, if you are not enjoying, and I particularly don't use the word hating because that's a very strong word, but if you're not enjoying the way you are for most of your waking hours, then that is incredibly exhausting. And with endless chronic exhaustion, what can happen is you then tip yourself over into the chronic fatigue syndrome, the burnout, and we don't want to go there. Okay, so what can you do to enhance your energy levels? And it's very, very simple. In order to raise those energy levels in the bucket, we have to do what we love to do. Okay, it's very simple. So putting energy in the top of the bucket will be anything that we love to do, and it will be very particular for each of us. It could be listening to music, it could be going for a run, it could be sitting quietly and doing some drawings, it could be holidaying a lot, it could be spending a lot of time with friends, it could be going to the movies. The list is endless. So the important thing, you can forget all these other things that I'm going to mention now, but the important thing is to do what you love to do, and to do that as regularly as you can. So for many of my clients, I ask them on a daily basis to do something special for themselves. Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to take a long time, doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but it is something that you mindfully do just for you. Okay, things like candlelit bath, listening to your favorite song as you're on the way to work, maybe slightly louder than you should. It just uplifts your soul. So we're going to do what we love to do. The second thing I'm going to speak about is that we need to rest well. And with the elite athletes that I do the mental training of, I have said to them, and it's the same that I'm going to say to you, the quality of their performance is determined by the quality of their rest. the quality of their rest. So what we need to do is to make sure that when we are resting, we really are. We're not pretend resting or getting too involved in social media. We really are able to switch our mind off. Another way to increase your energy is to be creative in whatever way you choose, and you don't even have to be good. It's just good for you to be involved in a creative thing. We all know the physical things that we should be doing: eating well, sleeping well, gentle exercise. I'm not going to go into that in a great amount of detail because we know all of those things. What we need to do to increase our energy or to maintain our energy is to avoid being with energy vampires. In other words, people who drain you. And we all know those people. After having spent half an hour with them, what happens is we end up being absolutely exhausted and we wonder what's happened to our day. So try and avoid those people who are energy vampires. To maintain our energy, if we can, try and choose to do the work that you love to do. It means that most of the day that you're surrounded by positive vibes, you're excited about what you're doing, stimulated by what you're doing, and that will keep your energy levels very high. And then the last thing I want to mention about how to keep our energy levels up is by using all the different so-called muscles of our life. So we can have a reading muscle, a working muscle, an exercise muscle, a cooking muscle, doing the chores of our day. We have a social muscle. And so what I'm saying is try and use the variety of that in a week, so that we don't just be doing the one thing, which will then lead to fatigue of that muscle as such. So I hope that you found a bit of value in my video today, and as always I ask you please to share it with others, to comment, and if there are particular topics that you would like me to add into my repertoire going forward, please feel free to put it in the comment box or drop me an email on sherryforsyth@gmail.com. Thank you so much, and I'll chat to you next week.